Yeah.
And thanks, Corey. Well, as we mentioned, February is Heart Month, and we're continuing our exclusive interview series with cardiologists from the Plumb Heart Center at Mercy Cedar Rapids. And today, we're having a heart-to-heart conversation with Dr. Mark Milton about a procedure that's shown to reduce stroke risk in people with AFib. Dr. Milton, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
All right, tell us more about this procedure and what heart issues it addresses.
Well, I'd start with talking about atrial fibrillation. Atrial fibrillation is a rhythm of rapid disorganized electrical activity in the upper chambers of the heart, so that instead of contracting normally, the atria just quiver. Blood can stagnate in the recesses of the chamber and cause blood clots to form, which can then float up to the brain and cause a stroke. Normally, we put people on a blood thinner. But in this particular situation, for people that are unable to take blood thinners, we have a pumpkin-shaped wire device that we insert into the left atrial appendage. The left atrial appendage is a sac-like structure that hangs off the left atrium, and that's where 90% of blood clots in atrial fibrillation develop. And when we deploy this device, it causes tissue to overgrow that space and close it off from the circulation so that those blood clots don't have access to the brain.
Okay.
And then people continue their blood thinner for a short period after and then eventually stop it, and they are protected from stroke as if they were still on.
I see. And how long has this procedure been around?
Well, the first occluder device, the Watchman, was approved by the FDA in 2015, and it's been updated since then, but the procedure's been actually, we first tested the procedure when I was in training with Dr. Holmes, and that was, gosh, 22 years ago. But the devices have been put in since FDA approval since 2015.
And what makes this procedure so significant?
Well, the significance is there's, not everybody can take a blood thinner. And the reason is, you can have bleeding issues, whether or not it's bleeding from your stomach, your bowel, if you fall and hit your head, if you have a car accident, if you have surgery, if, there's a lot of different ways that you can have bleeding problems, so that if you take blood thinners, or if you have a condition that prohibits the use of blood thinners, such as, a bleeding diathesis, or if you have terrible arthritis and need to take arthritis medications, there are problems with taking a blood thinner long term. But the balance is, if you don't take them, you're at risk for stroke, and nobody wants a stroke. So it puts us in this dilemma of the people that cannot take blood thinners. How do we make sure that they can have the same stroke prevention that those that take blood thinners have?
I see. So they're a good candidate for this procedure.
Yes, ma'am.
Anyone else?
The primary candidates are those that have a relative contraindication. If you have an absolute contraindication to blood thinner, meaning you can't take any at all for any period of time, we would recommend against it. And the reason is, or the biggest reason is, because these patients, there's a very small chance that in the early period after implant that you could get a blood clot adherent to the device. And in those patients, we have to initiate the blood thinner for a short period of time until that blood clot dissolves and gives time for the tissue to coat this device. So an absolute contraindication to a blood thinner would be a patient that can't have it.
I see. And how does this procedure give people peace of mind going forward?
Well, nobody wants a stroke.
No.
And everybody that is on blood thinners, is worried about the potential risk of taking a blood thinner. And in those that can't take it because they've already had problems or they expect to have serious problems, it's very anxiety provoking to not be able to protect against stroke. I mean, everybody's had a relative or knows a friend who has had a stroke, and that can be devastating. They can be they can recover, or they can be, debilitated in a nursing home. And I think that to be able to have protection when the traditional method is unavailable to them is a significant peace of mind.
Absolutely. And where can people get more information?
Our website, mercycare.org/heart.
Oh, well, thank you, Dr. Mark.
Yeah.